Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage. We just found out some rumored details, so take it with a grain of salt about Far Cry 7. We know it's been at least delayed a couple of times. The initial idea was maybe 24 or 25, and now we're looking at 2027. But man, this frustrates me to death. Okay, so just to get into what we're looking at, high stakes PvE, so environment and players, scavenge and extraction survival loop. We're still going to be fighting the Sons of Truth. It also includes a time limit, as shared a while ago by Rogue ITX. Up to 72 hours, last I checked. These are like data miner guys, so this is where they're getting this information. Rescue up to 6 family members. Safe house weapon durability. I do hope that's back. That's wonderful. But that would be part of the survival mechanic side of it. But man, if it is freaking PvP extraction shooter with 72 hours, oh my word. I am so tired of this live service stuff. I'm not excited about this. But yeah, Rogue ITX has also stated that it's looking like it's in Alaska. Also leaked images and audio files of the game, which were subsequently wiped following takedown notices. Currently targeting the launch between fiscal quarters 2 and 4 of 2027, which would be sometime next year, most likely. Yves Guillemot also claimed that Far Cry 7 would place greater emphasis on the multiplayer component and to create another long-standing live service game in Ubisoft's portfolio. No! We are so done with this live service. I hate what they did even with Black Flag Resynced. While it is a pretty well done game, there's some adjustments and changes in there that I think are small, but I think matter to the core experience of the game. But the biggest problem is the live service microtransaction stuff. And then again, making the game in a certain way and then selling you the solution, because it's not just cosmetics. There's actually like abilities and more power to certain things that you can have for your ship or whatever. And it's just, again, we're just moving toward this idea of just creating a grindy game instead of actually a player experience and say, oh, you want the better player experience? Here's the solution, $20, please. It just makes me sick. And then if we're getting to the point where this is going to be another live service extraction shooter game, we already just had Marathon. We already knew back in 2023 that it wasn't going to do well because it was an extraction shooter. We also knew, too, that we're not going to get into all of this lore of what Marathon is. That's over 30 years old. We're never going to see any of that. And then the extraction shooter is what it is. And my problem is not that people like these extraction shooters or other live service games. That's not my beef. My beef is that so much money is spent on these games for a niche genre, a niche audience, and it definitely is designed for a certain amount of people, but they spend so much money and then they fail. And then they have to have layoffs. The studios are closed. Other projects are canceled because of XYZ didn't do well enough. And I mean, we've continued to see this with Ubisoft. Okay, we got to see this with Assassin's Creed Shadows, with the microtransactions that they had in there. And even Resynced, it just shoves it in your face all the time. When you pause the menu, boop, it's there, right? That's so wonderful. We also got to see this too with the live service push for Skull and Bones, also for X Defiant, and there's been other games too that they've had. And then there's been other IPs like Splinter Cell that we don't even have. Even Watch Dogs 3, this was a problem where the whole focus was the live service and the microtransaction side of it, instead of actually making a good, fun, engaging game. The first one was really good because it had an emotional tie with a human element to it of, someone wanting to rescue a family member. That makes total sense. We can all get behind that. It doesn't matter where you are, what you are, where you come from, your background. We can all get behind that type of story. But the problem with these live service games is they focus more on the store instead of an actual game or story to begin with. And then it doesn't provide you anything. And then you wonder, wow, I don't really remember much. I don't remember what I did. I don't even remember when the game came out. And this kind of mediocrity and apathy is just really setting into the gaming space, including Ubisoft. And it does look like we have 2 games or 2 experiences. So Project Blackbird is a single player experience for Far Cry, and then Maverick is a multiplayer extraction shooter. But I've heard that both projects aren't going well. So it would make sense to me that if we actually overlap both, it's going to screw both. and just leave the multiplayer extraction out of it. Just make it a co-op. That was good enough for Far Cry 5, and Far Cry 2 and 5, they're actually my favorites, and 3 wasn't bad. 4 could have been better. I liked the boss, but 4 could have been better, and then 6 was just pretty garbage, in my opinion. I couldn't even bring myself to finish it. But yeah, here we go again with more live service stuff. And again, Skull and Bones, I still remember, forget everything you know about piracy. And it's like, guys, you already made Rogue, you already made Black Flag, and then you give us Skull and Bones, and you totally design it as live service. The whole point is live service. It's nothing else. It's not redefining piracy or anything, right? Or what pirates were like. It's just to create grind, more random stuff to do, just to get you to spend more money. And I worry that the Far Cry is ultimately going to have this happen to them. So again, this is a rumor and all that jazz. We'll have to take it with a grain of salt, but I will be following this because Far Cry is one of my favorite IPs. But, you know, if this again fails, just like what Marathon is doing, it doesn't bode well for the future of the studio or the IPs. Why? Because when studios don't make money, other stuff gets canceled and canned. We already saw that they already laid off half of the employees at Bungie, and Marathon is still doing horrible. It's actually doing the worst it's ever been, and at least in player counts and stuff. And if there's no players, well, they're not going to spend anything, right? There's not going to be any money there. And I can't see this really going well. So the budget needs to be appropriate in size to the audience that they're trying to get. But they're trying to make everything a AAA experience, or even say that they're quadruple A like Skull and Bones. No, GTA 6 is so far the only quadruple A experience because it's billions of dollars to make, which I think is insane. And they did apparently make their money back through estimates of pre-orders. But man, I am so tired of this, bro. When we take a look at their whatever this is, well, you know, we had the launch of Black Flag officially, and woo, we're already heading down, baby. That's how it's going. That was the same with Assassin's Creed Shadows. X Defiant was only for 10 months. Skull and Bones has horrible player numbers, but they're still supporting that for whatever reason. There must be a bunch of whales in there. And look at what Ubisoft used to be. Like, we're talking $110 per share, and now we're down to 5? And if they didn't have Tencent money, they'd be dead already. I truly believe that. And even just with their last fiscal year, 2025, they had a negative income of 1.5 billion euros roughly and a negative 105 net margin. You can't have a negative 105% net profit. That means all the money you put in, you lost double. That's insane. Yeah, Ubisoft is a dead company. And even though Black Flag Resynced is appreciated by some, it's not going to save the company. And again, it's because they're doing this type of stuff. Live service, baby. They just can't get away. And we just, you know, we went from Battle Royale. Well, we went from DLCs as live service elements, okay? And then we moved to Battle Royales. And then we moved to some twists and turns and mixtures of different stuff. And now we're moving into extraction shooters. And these companies have to stop doing this because they're destroying their companies and they're destroying the trust with the player base. And we all know it's a cash grab. So anyway, I'm going to continue to follow Far Cry 7. Like and sub, all that jazz. Hype if I deserve it. But I am frustrated as I am just, I have, anyway, have a good one.